A scrap dealer pays you by weight. A collector pays you for what the thing actually is. Those two numbers are not close. Scrap is arithmetic, grams times spot price minus the dealer's margin. It does not care what the object is or who made it. 11 silver things that go into the melt every week, counting down. Number 1 is on a shelf in your house with somebody else's name on it. Number 11, the toast rack. 6 silver bars on a small stand. Obsolete since about 1960. It has enough metal in it that a scrap dealer will count out $80 on the spot, and that is exactly why they disappear. Now, look at the shape instead of the weight. Christopher Dresser designed radically geometric racks for Hooken and Heath and for James Dixon in the 1880s. Documented examples have sold in the tens of thousands. Ordinary Edwardian racks, 1 to 300. Severe geometry, spindly angular legs, exposed rivets. A plain flat frame with no decoration anywhere. That plainness is the thing people misread. It looks unfinished, so it reads as cheap, and the ornate Victorian rack beside it in the cupboard gets kept instead. Check the underside of the base for a registration mark or a design number because that is what dates the model. And do not have one replated to smarten it up. On a design piece, the original surface is a large part of what the buyer is paying for. Number 10. The tea strainer, $15. That is what the metal is worth. A good marked strainer with its matching stand runs 1 to 400. A Georgian moat spoon, the long pierced spoon that did the same job in the 1700s, reaches well into 4 figures. First thing, is the stand still with it? The pair together is worth considerably more than the strainer alone, and the stand is the piece that wanders off. It is small, it is shallow, it looks like a spare dish, and it ends up under a candle or holding paper clips in another room. Then look at the piercing. Hand-pierced holes are slightly irregular with tiny tool marks at the edges. Machine work is perfectly even. Never push tarnish out of the holes with a pin. The metal between them is thinner than you think. Number 9. The salt cellars. 4 tiny bowls on 3 feet each, under 100 grams between them. Scrap money on that is almost nothing, so whole sets go without anybody hesitating. A good Georgian set of 4 with original liners runs several hundred to well over 1,000. Pierced Irish examples go higher. Look inside first at the base of the bowl. A hard gray pitted patch means salt has been sitting in it, and that damage is why so many were retired to a drawer in the first place. Then look for the blue glass liners. Missing glass costs you something, but replacements are made and fitted routinely, so a set with no liners is still not a scrap decision. And if there is a spare blue glass rattling around in a drawer somewhere in the house, it may well belong to one of these. Marks on these sit underneath, between the feet, easy to miss entirely. The next one has real weight to it, and that is exactly what makes it dangerous. Number 8. The cigarette case. This is the one that costs people the most, and the reason is the weight. Flat, hinged, covered in fine machine-turned wavy lines, completely obsolete. But it has proper heft, so a scrap dealer quotes a real figure, perhaps $100, and $100 feels honest for something nobody has used since smoking went out of fashion. A plain case genuinely is at the lower end. Enameled cases, cases with presentation inscriptions to somebody identifiable, and Russian and continental work run from the high hundreds into 5 figures. Open it and look at the inside of the lid. That is where the marks are, and where an inscription usually is. And an inscription here is not damage, it is provenance, and it can multiply the number if it names somebody traceable. Then check the hinge and the sprung catch. A broken hinge is the fault that hurts price most on these. Number 7. The nutmeg grater. Most people who find one cannot tell you what it is, and that is the whole problem. A small silver cylinder, a screw cap at each end, a rasped steel surface hidden inside where nobody looks. Nutmeg was expensive enough that people carried their own and grated it at the table. The object outlived the habit by 200 years. Scrap, about $20. Georgian nutmeg graters run from 200 into the low thousands, and early forms well beyond that. Open both ends, because these come apart into 3 pieces and almost everybody misses that. The marks are inside the lid or on the base rim. Then check whether the steel rasp is still there and whether it is original, because a grater with no rasp is a much weaker object. Do not clean that steel. Taking the rust off takes the original surface with it. Number 6. The caddy spoon. Does this look broken to you? A tiny bowl and barely any handle, as though somebody snapped a teaspoon in half and kept the wrong end. That is precisely why they go in the melt bag. It weighs 15 grams. Scrap will give you a few dollars. Plain Georgian examples run 100 or 2. The novelty forms, the jockey cap, the eagle's wing, the leaf, and the shell, from the high hundreds into several thousand. So the bowl shape is the whole identification. A plain oval is a plain oval. But a bowl cast as a leaf, a shell, a hand, a jockey's cap, or a bird's wing is a different object entirely, and those are the ones with the numbers attached. Marks sit on the back of the handle stub, usually rubbed almost flat by generations of polishing. Use raking light before you decide there are none there. The next 2 weigh almost nothing at all. That is the point. Number 5. The sugar tongs. Most Victorian tongs, $20 to $50. Nothing exciting, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. They sit in every canteen in the country and they go into the melt by the handful. But change the mechanism and the maker, and you are somewhere else entirely. Early Georgian scissor action tongs and cast figural tongs run into the hundreds. Rare provincial makers, considerably more. So look at the join. A pivot with 2 finger loops is an earlier form than the simple sprung bow, and that is the one to slow down over. Then check the marks on the inside of both arms. A mismatch tells you the pair has been married from 2 different tongs. Number 4. The wine labels, 10 grams. That is the entire object. A small silver plaque on a chain that hung round a decanter neck, naming what was in it. Scrap on 10 grams is a couple of dollars, so people sell these in handfuls. Ordinary Georgian labels run 1 to 300 each. Unusual names and cast figural designs go into the high hundreds. Rare makers and armorial examples reach thousands. Nothing on this list has a wider gap between what the metal pays and what the object is worth. Read the name on it. That is the check, and it takes 2 seconds. Common wines are common. Port and sherry and claret turn up constantly. What collectors hunt are the obscure and archaic ones, the drinks nobody makes anymore and the spellings nobody uses. The stranger the word, the better the odds. Then check the reverse for marks and look at whether the chain is original to it. Number 3. The small hinged boxes. This one is the size of a postage stamp. Vinaigrettes, patch boxes, pill boxes. A vinaigrette is a tiny hinged box with a pierced grill inside that held a scented sponge, and it weighs less than a coin. Nathaniel Mills of Birmingham made vinaigrettes with cast scenes of castles and abbeys on the lid. Those castle tops are among the most collected small silver there is, running from the high hundreds into 5 figures for the rare views. Even plain examples run 1 to 400. Open it and look for the inner grill. That is what makes it a vinaigrette rather than an ordinary little box, and it is very often gone because it is a separate hinged part the size of a fingernail. Marks appear in 3 places on these: on the base, inside the lid, and sometimes on the grill itself. A buyer wants to see all 3 agree with each other. When they do, you are holding something that has never been apart. The last 2 are the oldest things on the list. Number 2. The old spoon. 1 spoon in the drawer that matches nothing. A deeper bowl than anything modern. A strange squared-off end with 2 notches cut into it. It survived because it was still a spoon. Everything else from its service broke or was sold 3 centuries ago, and this one kept getting used because it worked. 50 grams. Scrap gives you $15. 17th century English spoons are a serious field, and apostle spoons, treefid spoons, and slip-top spoons run from the low thousands into the tens of thousands for good early examples. The handle end tells you, not the bowl. A flat end cut into notches, a small figure on the top, or a plain angled cut are all early forms, and none of them look like modern cutlery. Then look at the back of the bowl for a raised rib running down from the stem. One warning that matters here more than anywhere. Early spoons attract very good fakes. This is a specialist's job, not a quick opinion. And number one is the one with somebody else's name on it. Number one, the trophy. Somebody had a name engraved on this in 1931. A golf competition, a works presentation, a regimental farewell. 80 years later, that name is the reason the family decides it is worth nothing. Go and look at the shelf or the box in the loft. A cup, a bowl, a small tankard with a stranger's name across the front of it. Presentation silver is the most common silver in ordinary houses and the most likely of anything to be weighed and melted for exactly that reason, which is backwards. The engraving is provenance. A named, dated, occasioned piece is documented in a way anonymous silver never is, and to the right buyer, that inscription is the reason to buy rather than the reason not to. Your check tonight. Read the inscription instead of dismissing it. Write down the name, the date, the event. A regiment, a ship, a named company, a club, a known competition. Any of those can move the piece into a collecting field of its own, where military, maritime, sporting, and industrial collectors buy the story rather than the metal. Then read the marks on the base. Weigh it if you like. But treat that weight as the floor and never as the price. So the rule is simple. Scrap pays by the gram, and the smallest things in the drawer are where that is most dangerous. Nothing gets weighed before it gets identified. Melting is the only decision on this list you cannot undo. Then go and read the name on that trophy. If this was useful, tap like and subscribe, and tell me below what is engraved on yours.